Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Strategic Planning Committee meeting. I'm Councillor Barbara Blake. I'm the chair of this committee. If members present can introduce themselves, please.
I'm Sean O'Donovan, Councillor for Putnam Hale.
Councillor Bevan, can you hear us? Okay, all right, thank you. Officers present, please, can they introduce themselves, starting on my left?
Freddie Sprott, Principal Committee Coordinator.
Justin Farley, Legal Officer.
Rob Shazovsky, Director of Planning and Building Standards.
Bryce Tubble, Head of Spatial Planning.
Tim Solomon, Head of Policy Design and Conservation.
Okay, thank you. And if other officers are in attendance virtually, they'll introduce themselves when relevant. So we're on to item 1, which is filming at meetings. This meeting is being recorded. All registered speakers should be aware that they will be recorded for live or subsequent broadcast via the council's internet site or by anyone attending the meeting. Item 2 is apologies, and we have received apologies from Councillor Amin. Item 3 is urgent business, and there are no items of urgent business. So we're on to item 4, declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest? No. So we've got the minutes of the meeting, which is pages 1 to 36. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes, please? No? Okay, so can we approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of July? Agreed, thank you. So on to item 7, which is the the draft local plan. That's pages 7 to 1532. Councillor Williams, are you going to give us an introduction first of all?
I'm Councillor Williams, Cabinet Member for Housing and Planning and Deputy Leader. So the local plan is the Council's main planning document and provides a framework for new development and placemaking. And since our existing local plan was adopted back in 2017, there's been many significant changes. These include changes to national policy and legislation, the adoption of a new London plan, the Council's declaration of a climate emergency, and the revision of the Council's strategic aspirations for Haringey, including a new vision for the future of Haringey and the creation of the Haringey deal. A new local plan is an opportunity to help deliver the Council's 2035 vision of what it wants for Haringey, a place where we can all belong and thrive. It's a key opportunity to deliver on the Haringey deal and exciting opportunities such as being the London Borough of Culture in 2027 and also helping to host the Euro 2028 men's football tournament. But also it'll be key in helping address ongoing challenges we have, such as the homelessness crisis requiring a comprehensive and coordinated response. We need a new local plan to provide a robust and fit for purpose planning framework for the borough. In 2028, the First Steps engagement were carried out to enable residents and communities to shape the plan from the very beginning before any policies were drafted. And that actually was an award-winning consultation, and well done, brilliantly well done to the team for that. Now, the consultation feedback from other key council consultations has helped us to create and inform the draft local plan. Alongside the publication of the plan, there's a comprehensive comms, that's communications for those who don't know, and engagement plan has been developed to support the consultation on the draft local plan, with a focus on making the documents as accessible as possible You'll see from the large number of pages that making them accessible is really key so that people can see all the sections broken down into manageable chunks. Now, after the consultation, the council will update and refine the draft local plan and publish a submission local plan for consultation before sending the plan for examination. The draft local plan is dedicated to the memory of Nikki Gavron, and I'd just like to say a few words about Nikki. So Nikki died just over a year ago, aged 82. She was a leading Haringey and London politician whose career spanned 50 years from the 1970s. She was the first Deputy Mayor of London, following a successful career at Haringey Council and as chair of the London Planning Advisory Committee, LPAC, and a Labour member of the London Assembly for 21 years. She was well known for her powers of persuasion and capacity just to get things done. She was elected Assembly member for Enfield and Haringey in the first Greater London Authority election in 2000 and was quickly appointed as Ken Livingstone's deputy. Nikki was extremely influential in the development of the first London plan, and she even managed to get Richard Rogers involved, who created an architecture and urbanism unit at the GLA. But keeping it local, it was in opposing planned expansion of the A1 through Highgate into a motorway, which brought Nikki to local politics, elected to Haringey Council in 1986 during the famous Bernie Grant reign, when Thatcher was in power and battle swords were definitely drawn. Nikki was a trailblazer, committed to improving families' access to outdoor space, widening participation in the arts and improving the environment. Ahead of her time, she led the way on policies to improve air quality in green spaces and access to play for children. Her legacy lives on in Haringey through Jackson's Lane Arts Centre and through all her policy initiatives that Nikki championed, making Haringey and London greener and fairer places to live and work. It's for these reasons that we would like to dedicate our local plan to Nikki. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So welcome, Councillor Emery. Do you have any declarations of interest?
No declarations of interest. Apologies for lateness.
Okay, thank you. And welcome, Councillor Worrell. Sorry, I should have asked you. No, you were here at the beginning. Sorry. It's all right. I'm getting confused. Right, so I'll hand over to Bryce now to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just give a quick overview of the report, which is quite long. So this committee starts to do 4 things this evening. The first thing is to consider all feedback received in respect of the first steps engagement, which is set out in Appendix A to this evening's report, to note and comment on the draft local plan itself, which is attached as Appendix B, to recommend to Cabinet to approve for public consultation the draft local plan, and then to recommend to Cabinet that it delegates authority to the Director of Planning and Building Standards to agree the final version of the draft local plan to be published for consultation, to allow for any non-material changes which may be required in relation to the presentation of the document, text layout and design. So that's what the committee is asked to do this evening. I'll just touch quickly upon those 4 things. So in relation to the first steps engagement, this was the substantive start of the new local plan process. We carried out a consultation at the end of 2020 and the start of 2021. We heard from over 1,500 individuals and stakeholders. It was very wide ranging. We had a digital first approach to the consultation, given the major constraints presented by the pandemic. And we were able to secure both regional and national awards for the innovative approach that we took. So we had a substantial amount of feedback to that consultation, over 10,000 comments in total. We've captured all of those within the appendix, which is shared with you this evening, and those have comprehensively informed and shaped the draft local plan, which is also presented to you this evening. We recognise that the first steps engagement was some time ago. So to note, we've also captured key feedback from other council consultations during that time period, including Wood Green Voices, Tottenham Voices, Walking Cycling Action Plan, and the council's green spaces strategy. So a lot of consultation responses have informed the draft local plan, which you can see today. So draft local plan itself, what it seeks to do is set out a placemaking framework for the entire borough, to set out clearly what we mean by placemaking and how we want to see that delivered borough-wide. So in that respect, it contains a number of neighbourhood strategies. It breaks the borough down into 11 neighbourhoods. It contains detailed policies to manage development on thematic things like flood risk, biodiversity net gain and affordable housing. Then it also contains over 100 site allocations, setting out parameters for the development of key sites in the borough. In terms of how the document is structured, so there's an introductory part 1, which sets out the strategic context, the opportunity in the borough. It sets out a spatial vision for the borough, and this builds upon the Haringey vision to 2035, which was adopted by the council earlier this year. It also sets out a comprehensive placemaking framework. So this is what we mean by placemaking, and placemaking is intended to guide all development change that takes place in the borough in the future. The document's then got a spatial strategy. So this is addressing the big questions. So what development will be allowed to take place in the borough in the future? How much development? Where will that be allowed to take place? Where won't it be allowed to take place? What will that look like? Addressing things like tall buildings and density of development. And then how will that be brought forward? So considering things like master plans and design codes. So the spatial strategy addresses those big questions. We've then got a part 2, which contains chapters for each of the 11 neighbourhoods. So the neighbourhoods have a vision. This is what the council is seeking to achieve to 2042 within the neighbourhood. It's got a strategic policy to guide all plan applications which come forward in that neighbourhood in the future. And then there are a series of site allocations within the neighbourhood. So in terms of the neighbourhood, the site allocations, the opportunities have informed the vision for the neighbourhood, but the vision has also in turn informed the site allocations in terms of what we would expect those to deliver. So that's the structure of the document. So in terms of the actual consultation itself, that will take place subject to approval from Cabinet next week, starting at the beginning of October. A couple of things that will happen alongside the consultation, and we'll be carrying out a call for sites. So this is where we'll be asking developers, landowners, and anyone else who might be interested to bring to our attention any sites that might be available for development in the borough. So we've already carried out 2 call for sites in the past 4 years, but nonetheless, we need to keep looking for sites to address our housing challenges. So there'll be a call for sites as part of that. We'll also, alongside publishing the draft local plan, be publishing our evidence base. So the local plan has been informed by a comprehensive evidence base. This addresses things like housing need, employment need, retail and town centre uses need, flood risk, archaeology and infrastructure. So a very wide-ranging evidence base have been working on behind the scenes. Then alongside the draft local plan, we'll also be publishing an integrated impact assessment. This is an assessment which has been carried out by the council, and what it seeks to do is to assess the likely effects of the policies and proposals contained in the local plan. So there are a series of indicators set out in that impact assessment, and each policy and each proposal is assessed against those indicators. So it looks at the extent to which the policies and proposals will support improvements in health, improvements in current issues with inequalities and inequities, and in terms of impact on the environment. So it's the integrated impact assessment. We'll also be publishing a comms and engagement plan, so that will inform how we carry out engagement, but we want to carry out a really broad and wide-ranging engagement. We want to hear from even more people than we heard from in 2020 and 2021. So we are very ambitious in terms of that. So we'll be rolling out a consultation for probably in the region of 8 to 10 weeks. So that will deliver on the minimum statutory requirements for carrying out consultation at this stage of the local plan. It will also deliver on the council's adopted statement of community involvement, which sets out how we will involve communities in planning matters, and that will also seek to deliver on the Haringey deal. So there'll be a lot of activities as part of that. One of the key things we'll be doing is breaking down these very long documents into more digestible pieces, and using all the strategies at hand to ensure that people can access those and provide feedback. We'll be doing a series of online workshops as we did previously for the First Steps engagement, but we now also have the opportunity to meet with people face to face. So we'll be carrying out a variety of in-person consultation events, including within all of the neighbourhoods in the borough, which are likely to be held at council facilities, including libraries. So very wide-ranging consultation that we have planned before the end of the year. So in terms of where we go then after the consultation, so we hope to receive a substantial response. What we'll then do is we'll summarise all the feedback, and we'll make an assessment as to the extent to which our policies are sound or whether they need to be amended and refined. We'll then go through a process of amending and refining policies and proposals in the draft local plan, and we'll prepare what's called a submission local plan. That will be the version of the local plan that the council wants to adopt. We anticipate that will be ready in spring of next year. We'll then carry out another consultation on that document, which will be more focused on seeking representations from stakeholders, i.e. getting stakeholders to identify where they consider that the plan is unsound. So they'll have to specifically point out what they consider to be unsound, which policies and proposals and why. And then what we'll do is we'll submit the submission local plan together with those responses to the planning inspectorate, who will carry out an independent examination of the plan on behalf of the Secretary of State. We'll then get a report from the planning inspectorate in relation to the soundness of the plan, which will dictate how we then proceed from there, whether we're able to go straight to adoption or whether we may need to have some modifications to the plan before we are able to adopt, with tentative adoption scheduled for the first part of 2027. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. So any questions, please? Or comments? Councillor Warren? Yeah, so a mixed question session, I think, really, yeah. Any comments, any questions? Councillor Donovan?
Well, my question is relation to the consultation and the people that we're consulting, and how we're making sure that less heard voices, as they said, are heard. It may be more appropriate later on, if you go into more detail in terms of the consultation, to ask these questions. There have been a number of research papers regarding city planning and who are the least heard voices. Some of the least heard voices are older people, and maybe I could say more about that later. But the other thing, and I hesitate to say this because I'm sure there's people who are much more expert in this than I am, including the three councillors, is Councillor Williams, Councillor Warren, and Councillor Brennan, and that is how we can involve women and young women and families involved in the consultation. I've seen that there are toolkits available to include families with young children in it, not just mothers but fathers as well with young children, to look at not just one particular development, but in terms of local plan, all the development. And then also in terms of the initiatives, there is a huge initiative which is run in consultation with the UN Habitat organisation called Her City, and that's been run in 540 cities in 125 countries, and it recognises that women and girls tend to benefit much less than from urban spaces than men. Planning as always with respect, always throughout the world and throughout history, has been dominated by men rather than women. And I'm wondering how we are bringing on those initiatives, those worldwide initiatives, to so that we can consult more widely with as we do have time. Are we using your Her City initiative, or are we doing something else? I don't know whether that's something Councillor Williams would want to respond to.
So do you want to respond to that, Bryce? And then if there's anything, yeah.
Thank you. I'll start, and then my colleague Tim might have some more detail to add. But yes, we absolutely want to hear from the lesser heard voices. A target of ours when we carried out the first step engagement was to do that as well. In some areas we succeeded, particularly with young people and school-aged children, but we did identify that there were some gaps, and we've specifically outlined what those gaps are in the comms and engagement plan, and we'll be seeking to address those. So that is the comms and engagement plan, which has been shared with you, is a high-level plan. That is already a lot of detail for this stage of the draft local plan. Behind the scenes, we're working on a much more detailed communications and engagement plan with specific and target strategies for a number of the groups you've mentioned, including older people, younger women and families. I'm not personally familiar with the Her City initiative, but certainly we are happy to take a look at that. In the drafting of our plan, we have already put key policies through a women and girls lens, as is best practice in urban planning parts of Western Europe now. So we've certainly had that in mind. Perhaps Tim can give you a few more ideas about what we're looking at the moment, but we just need to be cautious that we've got a small team and we've got limited resources, so we do have to work within the envelope. But to the best we can, we will be seeking to hear from as many of these voices as possible.
Yeah, just kind of echoing what Bryce said, we've taken a very deliberate strategy with this comms and engagement plan to reach out to those seldom heard groups, and in particular those groups that we didn't hear as much from in the first steps engagement. So we've got separate work streams on developing strategies for each of those seldom heard groups, and I can say that women and young girls is definitely one of those groups that we are working on. We had an expert come to talk to the team earlier in this year, actually, specifically on that matter, to come up with some ideas. As Bryce said, we're kind of developing what the options are at the moment, but ideas that have been put out there include having kind of deliberate walkarounds with women and young girls to ascertain how they feel in different spaces, because safety is a big issue, obviously. And I guess something we're working through is how can we capture that information and use it in a tangible way to inform the local plan going forward.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything to that, Councillor Williams?
Thanks. I think it's been fairly comprehensively answered, but I think getting that RPTI award for the first steps engagement gives me the confidence in the team's ability to reach out, and also the comms and engagement plan is very comprehensive and obviously has a lot of work streams to it as well. So I think I am given that reassurance. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, and I do appreciate everything you've said in relation to the award, and clearly that consultation has been recognised. And I also appreciate what you're saying in terms of resources and finance and capacity of it. I would just like to mention there are the toolkits that seem to be available may not actually add to your work, and obviously if they do add to your work, then you don't have to use them. But there's a young families toolkit in terms of urban planning, and there's also the whole Her City worldwide initiative as well. So I don't want to add to your workload, and I can see that the process is going well, but they were just some suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing we did last was we always looking to build upon best practice and learn what's worked elsewhere. One thing we did last time is we did some engagement in lower schools, junior schools within the borough. So we've got some contacts now at schools both in the east of the borough and the west. And that was very successful last time round, and we'd hope to roll out something similar this time round and hopefully even expand that. It's actually one of the most enjoyable parts of the job as a town planner, to get out of the council offices or my home office and talk to people, and particularly young people who are very creative and full of innovative ideas.
Councillor Warren. All right, councillor, just wait a minute till the link's been sent, otherwise we get confused. Councillor Emery, did you have some questions?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, the plan is a little bit overdue, but I think it was being due last year. Has the council picked up on any lessons since that may help with this in the future? There's two other questions as well to follow that up. The plan mentions, sorry, the introduction mentions the use of consultants and consultancy firms. Can you give an idea on what percentage of the work you think might have been done with consultancy's help? And then lastly, how would the plan change based on government funding changes and stuff like that? Is the plan quite active in terms of its ability to respond to that?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Emery. So in terms of the plan being overdue, yes, we acknowledge that it was overdue. There are a number of reasons for that, which were picked up through the audit of the planning service, which came to this committee a time ago, but it partly relates to very limited resources within the planning team, which have been partially addressed in the last 6 to 12 months and enable us to move forward with a bit more pace. But it also partly relates to the fact that we've done a lot of our evidence base in-house. So typically councils commission almost all of their evidence base, and I would say that where we've had the expertise to do it in-house, we've done it in-house. There's a significant cost saving in relation to that, in the hundreds of thousands of pounds, but there is a time implication to that, which has meant that we've been a bit slower than some other authorities who take that route. So where possible, it's always our preference to do our evidence base in-house because we know our borough best, but there will always be occasions where we need expertise, for instance, around flood risk, for example, or on the detail aspects of housing needs. So that's the consultancy point. And in terms of responding to government changes, I would say a couple of things. We've done very well as a service in the last 12 to 18 months in bringing in money from the government to help us deliver the plan at the lowest possible cost to the council. We were awarded close to £230,000 from MHCLG. We were awarded £200,000 from MHCLG for a PropTech project, which is helping deliver the local plan. We've also got funding in to deliver a Greenbelt review, which is being led by the GLA, and funding for a couple of other places too. So in terms of the plan itself, the government is bringing in a new planning framework from the end of next year, new style local plans. And the idea is that a lot of the bog standard policies will be stripped out of plans on things like biodiversity, net gain and flood risk, and they'll just be place-based and site-based. We've deliberately developed our plan so it is future-proofed. And even though it's been delivered now ahead of the new style local plans coming fully into effect, it will be a new style local plan. Hence why there's such a big focus on the neighbourhoods and on the placemaking focus areas and the sites. So yeah, hopefully we are fully future-proof. Thank you.
Okay, any more comments or questions? Councillor Warren.
I just have to ask about stuff without referring to the document. Sorry, because I still haven't been able to open anything. Yeah. If that would be great.
Can I just say, actually, if you go on the minutes, if you look down at the bottom, there's Appendix B, brackets, low resolution, 53 pages. That seems to be something that can be opened.
It won't even open the reports pack right now because of how big of a file it is. I was able to open it before, but I think the internet I have right now is not good enough. Sorry.
Sometimes right-clicking the link and downloading or save as can be better than just opening it in the browser. See if that works.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Go to Councillor Bevan, please. Thank you.
Councillor Bevan, can you hear us? And you got your hand up?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
The only comment I would like to make is consultation. I just want to refer to the Tottenham Sixth Form College where there's 1,200 students, you know, of 17, 18, 19, 20 years of age. And I think it would be, they really appreciate if you could hold a session there. And I'm involved with that college, so I could sort of highlight what you're doing and get a good turnout from all the students.
Yeah, I'm very happy to do that, Councillor Bevan. If you're able to provide us with the contact, that would be even more helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay.
Okay. Are you ready then, Councillor? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So sorry about my technical issues. So Bryce, I think in some of our much earlier conversations about this local plan, we spoke about how this would have kind of enhanced protection for retention of existing trees. So I haven't been able to find that in the text, much reference to that. So I wondered if you could sort of highlight what the changes are around that. And then interested in the stuff around, you know, climate resilience, adaptation, and kind of net zero buildings. And I wondered, like, to what extent is there going to be a shift towards trying to retain, upgrade original buildings, or to what extent are we sort of going to continue to rely on offsetting? Those are my first questions. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you. Happy to address those. So I think one of the major shortcomings of the existing local plan is that it doesn't really address trees in a satisfactory manner. So we have comprehensively addressed that in the draft local plan. When you have an opportunity, not necessarily right now, we've got a dedicated trees policy in the green and blue infrastructure section that has been drafted with extensive input from the council's trees team, plus looking at best practice from across London and elsewhere. So that should, once it's adopted, be the best, if not one of the best trees policies in the entire country. So that's really detailed and really specific about protecting high quality trees. In relation to the second point, what's much more front and centre in this plan is addressing the climate emergency. We've got two specific chapters on it. We've got climate emergency in buildings chapter, which sets out a very clear and prescribed route to delivering genuine net zero buildings and not just notional net zero buildings. So again, that's very specific with detailed policies and targets. Within that, we have a explicit encouragement for retrofit, which is much stronger than our current approach. As planners, we can't currently require retrofits to the exclusion of everything else, but we are asking developers to demonstrate that they have at least considered it. So I think for all major proposals, we're asking for them to demonstrate that from the start of the design process, they did consider the opportunity to retrofit. And we acknowledge that there may be examples where retrofit is not the best option for a variety of reasons, but nonetheless, we want people to consider it. And I think that's a good start. And that's learning from best practice from places like the City of London. Then we've also got a climate adaptation and resilience chapter. Again, that's something we don't have in the current plan, but what it does is it pulls together a variety of different policies on things like urban cooling, on flood risk. It pulls it into one place and it starts to think about these things holistically rather than individual things like flood risk or overheating. So hopefully that's much more front and centre too.
Thank you. And which chapter is the tree policy in?
It's policy G6.
Chapter 24, so it's going to be somewhere towards the end of the 939 pages.
Did you want to come back, Councillor, or do you want to have a bit more time to scroll through? Okay, there you go. Has anybody? I've got a few points. I just wanted to make, if I can. So the government there is going to be changes to the planning system. So would that make any difference? I mean, I suppose it's gone quiet. It's gone a bit quiet at the moment, hasn't it? But in terms of I don't think we've had the final proposals yet. Yeah, okay. So could that skew anything within the local plan? Do you want to come back on that? I've got.
Yeah, and no, thank you. Good point. So variety of changes afoot for the planning system. There's changes which apply mostly to the development management process, but there's also changes that relate to local plans. So the government wants to see full coverage of local plans, which is the first thing they want, full coverage of up-to-date local plans. So we're making a major step towards that. They envisage new style local plans. And from 2027, every borough will be required to prepare a new style local plan. A new style local plan is supposed to be shorter, more succinct, and more focused on places and sites. And the idea is that the government will over time publish development management policies. And what these will do is they will replace council's individual development management policies. So at the current time, every council has a different policy on flood risk. And the intention of the government is that every council will use the same flood risk policy. So these types of policies will drop out of plans, and then all you'll be left with, or mostly what you'll be left with, is the neighbourhoods and the sites. So a big focus of our plan has been the neighbourhood section, which is the major part of the very long plan. And that's what a new style plan should look like in our view. So I think we are very future proofed. And hopefully in the future, when it comes to the next review of this plan, we should already have something really substantive in place to build on rather than almost starting from scratch in some respects.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. And just to add to everything that Bryce has said, other government changes coming, housing targets are only going up. So there's an increased expectation that we will have a higher housing target. In London, that is set by the London plan, and you'll be aware that the Mayor of London is working on a new London plan, and that will set a new housing target for Haringey. So we will need to evolve this local plan as we get a new housing target part of the way through the process. So that's one of the key things arising out of the government reform. You'll have also heard about Greenbelt. The government's reforming Greenbelt. As Bryce mentioned earlier, there's some funding from the government to do a green belt review led by the GLA. In Haringey, we don't have a huge amount of green belt, but there is a little bit, particularly the site in question is the Tottenham Hale Ferry Lane former garage car wash site. So that's being looked at through the plan as part of the government reforms. And yes, and as ever with all government planning reform, we'll make sure you get an update in the Strategic Planning Committee quarterly update report that we do for the next meeting of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. And I've just got another couple of points myself. So actually, just when you're talking about higher housing targets, so how can the plan ensure that essential services keep up with the population growth? Yeah, and then I've just got another point after that one.
Yeah, good question. So one of the major pieces of evidence which we're preparing to support the local plan is an infrastructure delivery plan. So we've been preparing this in the background. And what this looks to do is establish what the current gaps are in infrastructure, whether it's in provision of GP surgeries or dentists. And then it looks at what infrastructure will be needed to support the expected increase in population. And then we can start to think about a strategy for addressing that and a funding strategy for doing that too. So this is a detailed bit of work we're working on in the background. what we're doing, which is quite innovative in this space, is traditionally an infrastructure delivery plan is a PDF document of 100 plus pages that no one ever looks at. What we're going to do at some stage later this year is create a live digital infrastructure delivery plan, which will effectively be web-based, which will make it much easier for everyone to engage with. You'll be able to click on a map of your ward, see what current infrastructure provision there is, see what housing sites are likely to be delivered there over the next 15 years, and you'll be able to see where the gaps might be. So it will really bring it to life and be a really helpful tool for dealing with the types of infrastructure issue that we need to deal with. It's always really difficult when you get to a planning application and then someone says, oh, we've got an infrastructure issue. So we're looking to identify these up front. Where there is an identified infrastructure need, we're looking to insert this in site allocations or neighbourhood chapters so that when applications do come forward, we've got all the hooks we need as a council and as a planning committee to secure that infrastructure from developers or secure a contribution towards it.
That's good, thank you, and that's really useful. And the last point I just wanted to make is about enhancing the local heritage. And I mean, I have sort of tried to read this, the plan as much as I can, but I mean, I think conservation areas, and I know I do a lot of moaning about conservation areas that, especially in Tottenham, that nobody knows that they are actually conservation areas. And I hope that we can enhance those areas so that, that actually people want to come and see them, and that, we've got the lovely old buildings or old structures or old drinking fountains or wells or whatever, and that they're actually enhanced. So I just hope that that's a point, that the local plan does put a lot of importance on those sort of conservation areas and the local heritage. That's really just a point that I wanted to make. Laura, did you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you. It was about affordable housing, and yeah, also just overall to say I think the plan looks excellent so far. Like there's loads of really good stuff in it. And it's very exciting, and it's going to be so nice when the planning committee are making decisions based off an up-to-date document that reflects what we need in this borough. Just on the affordable housing, which is obviously very welcome to see that there's going to be a 50% target for genuinely affordable. Just wondered about, because I think within that it's a 70-30 split between London Living Rent and intermediate. So kind of wondering about how that calculation's been arrived at, or sort of what the rationale is for ending up with that weighting. And I suppose at the moment, working off our existing plan, it seems like what we get quite often is reasons why the policy can't be delivered from developers because of viability and so on. And I guess I'm a little bit concerned about, given that like the economy and stuff is going to continue to be challenging, is there a risk that we kind of just keep ending up with that, even though we've got a better target and a better policy? And then I just wondered if you could explain this line from the bit about the housing mix. Says affordable housing requirements are not limited to use class C3 and will be sought from alternative housing products consistent with other policies in this plan. If you could just clarify that. Thank you.
So I'll take the last one first. That's just a signpost that the council's affordable housing requirements don't extend to just conventional build for sale homes or build to rent homes, and actually that we also require affordable housing on other types of scheme, other types of housing like student accommodation, contributions from co-living. Certain types of older persons accommodation might also be required to contribute to it. So that's what that means. So in terms of the affordable housing policies, we've sought to be as ambitious as possible. So we've got two targets. We've got the 50% strategic target, which is consistent with the London plan. So that's really a stretch target. So that will be met through a variety of means, through the council delivering affordable homes itself, through registered providers delivering affordable homes themselves, hopefully more in the future than they currently do, and also through us securing affordable homes through private schemes. We've then got the second target, which is the target which will apply to private developments. So in Haringey, that is proposed to be 40%. So that is consistent with the existing target in our existing local plan. And there are certain higher targets if it's publicly owned land or industrial land that's proposed to be converted to housing, but that's the 40%. Then within that, you've got the tenure mix, which is the 70-30. So currently we require 60% low cost rent and 40% intermediate in most of the borough, but that is reversed in the east of the borough. So we're proposing to get rid of that reversal so that the same tenure mix applies to the entire borough. In terms of the 70-30 itself, the London plan says you should be delivering, I think off the top of my head, 40% low cost rent, 30% intermediate, and then it's left to boroughs to decide what the other 30% is. And it's clear from our evidence that the need is overridingly for low cost rent and social rent. So that's why we've gone for the 70-30, which is the highest split you can really go for to still be consistent with the London plan. Now, I think it would be fair to say that the proposed approach will get a lot of scrutiny. Viability is very challenging at the moment, and we do expect that developers will challenge this through the consultation period. We are working on some really detailed evidence to defend that target. There will always be cases where you can't meet a certain level of affordable housing on a given site, but we shouldn't rush to the lowest common denominator. So that's why we've gone for an ambitious target. And we also need to consider that, in theory, this is a new local plan for 15 years. So it's, I would hope that the economic conditions improve substantially over that period, in which case we need to have a target which reflects the fact that over 15 years you go through a variety of stages of an economic cycle. So hopefully that helps address your questions.
Okay, thank you. So are there any further questions or comments? Go on, Councillor Worrell.
Just some very specific things. I wanted to sort of welcome the wording of the warehouse living policy, policy C6. I think yeah, because I think we had quite a few discussions about this when we were engaging on it much earlier on, and I think that this wording, I'm really glad that the stuff about the kind of the nature of the living and working environment is in there, and I think hopefully that will be enough to kind of safeguard the character of it as it is at the moment, and allow that to continue. And then just a really specific thing about Stroud Green, I am very, very worried about the prospect of Rowans being redeveloped. I do get that we need to be building affordable housing wherever we can, but I do think that that is just such a local landmark, and not just local. People come from all over London, and it's very, very beloved. And I suppose all I would say is if it did get redeveloped, I would really hope that actual Rowans could be retained rather than another bowling alley with the same people and the same vibe, because yeah, it's a very important place. It's culturally significant in a different way to some of the sites that Barbara mentioned, but I think it's very significant. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think we'll note that then, and thank you. Thank you for that comment, which we can note. Okay, Councillor O'Donovan.
It was just coming back to the point. Earlier, and I welcome there's a few mentions of older people, and it's really how this fits into our long-term ambition for Haringey to become an age-friendly borough. It certainly talks about increasing the number of that older people enjoyed the consultation talk about isolation as a very key concern, creation of more public spaces, but also ensuring that our current public spaces are accessible to everyone, including old people and people with disability. I also welcome the policy in relation to public toilets, ensuring public toilets being inclusive, accessible and safe to use, and so I would also say possibly more of them as well. So I'm sure this will be an ongoing consultation with older people's groups, and we are quite blessed with having lots of older people's groups in the borough. But I welcome this part of the plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll just note those, unless you want, but I think we'll just note those comments. I think we are all in agreement with them. So any further questions? Councillor Warren?
It was just a question about supported housing. Given, there's a lot of kind of changes as to how supported housing is measured and regulated, and local authorities are going to have to draw up supported housing strategies and then think about kind of how much they require and of what types and so on. And I just wondered if there's going to be a link from our local plan into that work, whether that kind of falls in scope.
Yeah, I think there's definitely the opportunity to do that. So we've been working close with housing strategy colleagues around need for different types of specialist housing. So as and when they've got more detailed evidence or strategies, we're happy to integrate those in the local plan or refer to them elsewhere next to the local plan. So yeah.
Well, just to make a comment on that, I've been very keen on intergenerational housing where new builds are built so that they can be adapted easily for as families change and develop. And I think this is something that is happening in London, and I've been actually quite keen on that, and that we try to maybe talk to developers about having more intergenerational housing, so that as a family changes or develops or gets older, you know, the adaptations can be made quite quickly. Any other comments, please? Last chance. No? Okay. All right then. Thank you. So we'll now move to the recommendations, which are set out on page 9. And there are, so the recommendations are that the committee, that we consider all feedback received in respect of the new local plan first steps engagement consultation set out in Appendix A to this report. Secondly, that we note that we are the notes and comments on the draft local plan consultation document attached as Appendix B to this report. 3, that we recommend to the Cabinet to approve for public consultation the draft local plan consultation document that's attached at Appendix B, and that we recommend, number 4, recommends to the Cabinet that it delegates authority to the Director of Planning. Do I have to read all that one out?
Delegate the detail to the director.
Okay, right. So that we delegate the detail to the Director of the Planning and Building Standards to agree the final version of the draft local plan consultation document. So are we in favour of all those recommendations? All those in favour, please show. Great. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. So that's we're on to item 8. No, we've got no new items of urgent business. And item 9, the date of the next meeting is the 23rd of February. Seems a long way off. Yeah.
I've been totally unable to read this local plan. It's still too big, so I voted it through. I couldn't read.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll know that there is going to be more opportunity for us to look at it, I believe. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. It's such a big document, but we'll see what we Yeah, we'll see what we can do. Okay, for the next time. All right. Okay. Thank you. And thanks for making it to the meeting.